All right. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Hello.
It is good. It is good to be here with you and good to see you. There you are.
Yay. Hey,
Welcome,
everybody. The
everyone.
holidays are over.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while. So welcome, everyone. Welcome back to another round. This is going to be a very fun episode with my friends and barflies, Scott Kolins.
Hey, everybody.
And Stephen B. Jones. And I am your bartender / host, Jeff Johnson. That's me. So tonight, first off, a toast to seeing you guys again. Happy New Year's.
Oh, I heard that lovely sound, Jones.
All right.
Thank you once again, Andy Chang.
Nice. Steve, what do you got there? Is that just a classic?
Just a Mexican Coke tonight.
Perfect.
Hail Hydra.
Hail mother-loving Hydra.
Oh, Hydra. Excellent. All right. So tonight, we are going to be talking about one of the greatest comics ever.
Heck yeah.
Well,
Avengers. Even an android can cry, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh no, I did the wrong homework.
Yeah, Walt Simonson's Thor 337, the introduction of Beta Ray Bill and his triumphant return to Thor. Yeah.
Actually, we should do that. Even in Android, that'd be a great John Buscema one to do. Or if we did John Buscema, maybe we do an issue of Conan.
Sure. I mean, stuff. There's so many great John Buscema issues.
Some Belit with Ernie Chan inking.
That would be good for me. I would like
Sure.
that.
All right.
Of
So
course.
we should actually talk about what we're supposed to be talking about.
Right.
No, this was Simonson's first issue when he came back, right? Like this is
Yes.
Yep.
You can't
Yep.
you can't announce your return more auspiciously
Right.
than to have your brand new character that you've created destroying the logo
Right.
and breaking up the Thor just kind of sitting there like a lump on a log.
Well, remember, it was such a surprise at the store at the time. Even if you'd seen the inside trade ads that were in the months beforehand, letting you know that that Walt was going to be taking over Thor, it just had a picture of Thor over some dead trolls or monsters or different stuff like that, some sort of aftermath war scene. It did not let us know that this was coming in the first issue at all. You just walked in the store and went, "Oh my Lord, what is this?"
Well, and I forgot that. He was being literal too, right? Because the next issue is new lettering for the title, and of course, and Beta Ray Bill in the quarter box as opposed to Thor.
Yeah, he destroys. Hang on a second. He destroys that logo, and I don't think I'd ever seen that in a comic before.
No, there hadn't been much in our age. I don't think.
X-Men 135.
Oh, okay.
When Jean comes up with that's another issue we should do. That bright green cover.
Right, she's just smashing
where
it
she's
or
becoming
grabbing
Mark Phoenix. Yeah, and she's got it between her hot little hands.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And then I love it. Yeah, then the 339 Beta Ray Bill is still in the corner, and then in 340 it's Stormbreaker and Mjolnir crossed, and then I think Thor doesn't get the corner box back into the thank you, Scott, until 340 until 341. The other amazing thing is how many of these issues are like 21, 23, 25 pages, and this one is too.
Yeah. This one is.
You know what? I was doing the math on that a few weeks ago when we were talking about those old X-Men and stuff, that was part of this jump to the 60 cents. I figured out. Before this, comics at Marvel were 40 cents and they were still 17 pages. Then they jumped to 50 cents, went to the 22, but that was just like a stopgap to not sticker shock fans, I think. And then eventually it went to 60. And I think it stayed there for a little while at 60, but that's when it went to 22 pages.
Hear that, listeners? Comic book artists can do math too.
Sort of. So here's the cover. But here's one of the things. Here is the cover. Just the straight up inks.
Ooh,
just amazing.
So pretty.
Yeah, his sense of graphic design is incredible, and one of the things I love of it is just his like. Joe's and I were talking about this earlier, Scott. Is that you have all the influences that you are conscious of when you're an artist, like you studied in the Buscema School, the John Byrne School, or the Mobius School. And Simonson is someone that I always loved, and I definitely studied him, but I don't think I realized how much his visuals got into my subconscious as the very definition of what's cool.
Oh yeah. No, and part of that also happens for me anyway, was because I loved Walt stuff before I knew it was Walt. By this point, I knew who Walt was, at least tangentially. But I had all those earlier issues of Thor when he was being inked by Joe Sinnott and doing all that stuff. His run the first time when he was just the artist, the penciler on the book, and I loved that stuff.
What year is this one, Scott?
The new one?
No, the 337. The one
that's 1983.
Okay. Yeah, because Jeff and I were describing, when I first met Jeff, I think we've talked about this, but if you're listening to us, then get used to hearing us repeat ourselves, guys. Especially if you know me, just get used to it. But
editor's note.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes. I think Jeff and I met when I was 15 and he had just turned 16, I think. And I feel like one of the first drawings I ever saw you draw was a Walt Simonson inspired Manhunter drawing.
Oh yeah. I was before I fell in love with Thor, obviously, but I was a big Star Slammers and Manhunter fan before early on.
And you definitely had like the flair, that's kind of snappy Simonson fabric flair that he'd gotten in those big, extremely impractical Manhunter sleeves.
I do always love that kind of over the top cloth rendering that he does, especially with the capes. The Thor cape is inspired.
Yeah, it definitely feels like I guess Kirby too, right? But in a different way. And it's nice that in the Thor Marvel films early on, they were sort of trying to capture some of the impossibly swoopy, thick, curvy, Kirby / Simonson capes.
Yeah.
They almost had a little bit of a clothy cardboard quality to them. They were so stiff and strong and big and bulky.
Exactly. And Jeff and I were talking about how, sadly, I did not, unlike our beloved X-Men issue that we described, I did not buy this one when it came out, because this was during the dark times before. In the late 70s, I was young enough to be able to kind of buy comics through my allowance. And then as I started to just buy too many and started getting older, look at that Manhunter.
Right.
Basically, I didn't buy this comic when it came out because by that point, I couldn't steal money out of my parents' wallets in purse anymore. I'd run my allowance had run dry, and I finally had to get some kind of job in like 1984 so I could afford to buy comics. So, and then this one, the price went up on it so quick. I don't think I got the original for a really long time.
Oh wow!
Wow, what's that? Oh,
that's for Manhunter. It's a
my
Manhunter
God.
page.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Ooh.
He put a lot of information into a page.
Could we go back and look at that Star Slammers cover again real fast? I was jibber jabbering about stealing money from my parents. God, that's so good.
Yeah. His compositions and his graphic design and just everything about his costume. Like, what's funny about the Star Slammers stuff is you see some of the early inspiration or some of the early experimentation for when he does Asgardian armor.
Yep.
For sure. Well, and I feel like looking at that cover right now, I can see the influence that Walt had on our friend Eric Canetti and on the Mr. Other Drink and Draw, Mr. Dan Panosian. It's like just in terms of overall design and in terms of some of the snap and flare of the lines and stuff, costume stuff.
Just the sheer the boldness and the confidence. Well, one of the things so I did a backup in Detective Comics, I guess 20 years ago now. And when the editor called me and asked me if I wanted to do it, he said it was going to be like Manhunter. Right. And so I went, oh yeah, okay. Well then I will jump. I jumped at it. And sadly it was not like Manhunter.
But it was a wonderful pitch.
It was a great, I can't do everything. and went, yes, I'm in. If I can do something that even remotely like Manhunter, I wanted to. But I mean, I didn't have the chops, and it just wasn't that kind of story. But I love those backups. I mean, he just he packed so much into a page. Like there's that and this one, and then
that's incredible. Whoa, wait, whoa.
Yeah.
We can't stay on that Batman longer.
There you go.
It's such a great. Did this Walt must have created this costume?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the flare and stuff to it, and then who is that? Him too? Without is that what he looks like without the big red thing? Is that what that is? At the bottom,
the corner, yeah.
Aye, so good.
And this is actually
Herb Trimpe.
Back in. There's another one.
Lordy Lord.
Yeah, but I just wanted to throw up real fast. I don't know if you guys remember. This is the last page of Thor before, or
the last story before
the pages of. This is the issue before we get the Simonson issue.
Actually, Jeff, I looked up that issue. It's got two short stories, two half-issue stories in the thing. Herb did one of them. The other one was by, or somebody we know.
Yeah.
I can't think of it now. I want to say Mark Bright, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Well, Mark Bright was
somebody
great.
That time frame, yeah.
But no one could compete with this, though. Here we go. Bang. There's that.
Yeah.
Shaka Thum.
And then when you turn the page, the first page.
Yeah.
So good.
These panels. And you're like, okay, what's this? And then you turn the page, so you get the first two pages.
Look at that thing.
I love the I mean, in terms of the page flow. Well, look, okay. Before we even just page one, right? Those 4 vertical panels.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe Frank Miller was doing some vertical panels here and there, but I don't feel like there was. I hadn't seen anyone really use vertical panels to this degree, and
no.
I mean, Walt is probably the second best Kirby dot artist, in terms of Walt has such a specific special effects visual style,
Right, yep.
And it's influenced by Kirby, obviously, but there's just so much impact in all those drawings, and the perspective on the fourth shot of Surtur that we don't know Surtur yet is gripping the ingot. You know what I mean? Just like
yep,
right.
The foreshortening on that one is just so good, and on that top knuckle that's popping forward and stuff.
Yeah. But even the 3D, he makes the tongs look really cool.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, Walt's textures are always so. He always is supporting the lines are always wrapping around the forms in addition to creating, great textures.
Well, one of the things apart from the art, one of the things I wanted to talk about is just how separate the past Thor is from this Thor. Like in the very first page, we have an entire galaxy being shrunk down. So the sense of scale is blown out of the water.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. So you get this idea, and his dialogue was great. And so the whole galaxy is shrunk down into this one ingot. So, but if that's a whole galaxy, how big is Surtur?
Exactly.
Right. So it's left with you really kind of reeling from an entirely new sense of scale.
Yeah. Well, those are planets on the top of the panel.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Right.
And you got the John Workman lettering. It all has that sort of Nordic Celtic feel,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Make it look very singular, very unique. With everyone else pulling out the stops of what they were doing. He basically did the same thing. I'm trying to look up who was coloring this madness.
That's so good. Oh, it's George Roussos?
George Roussos was coloring.
Mm-hmm. God, that was, I mean, again, just the flow of the line of the energy in the top panel as it circles back around, but then and then you basically ride that infinity symbol down into the next shot, and it kind of reverses and flows direction.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And then we get, before we go on to the next page, I wanted to...
Man, look at that hot pink. All right, so I'm looking at the digital recolored version on Comixology, which looks so different. I love that blazing hot pink.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, so I just wanted to throw in, so I also found some of the black and whites.
Cool.
And see if I can find it here. Is it this one? There's that.
Oh yeah.
Holy cow.
Look at that. So
just beautiful.
Lordy, Lord.
But all in service to the story.
Right.
He's not, really pulling out any sort of,
Well, no, and
pretty boy things in any of this.
Walt will have stuff break out of a panel border, but he's actually shows a amazing amount of restraint, because it would have been really easy to pop the cosmic salad tongs that Searcher is using
yep.
out, but it's so much better keeping it in, I think,
And I have to say that this might have been, I mean, I was young, obviously, but this might have been one of the first times I really noticed the lettering.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. In the hand lettering, this is definitely the first time that I understood how much of an art form it was. Oops, I don't want to skip ahead. So let's do. So that's good. A little bit of the black and white, and then we have this panel, and it leads into this, which I will never forget seeing it as a kid, and just kind of almost like shuddering, being like, "What is going on?"
Yeah,
Doom. Like, it's so powerful.
It's like a cosmic anvil.
So good.
The texture on the anvil is so great.
Yeah.
It just screams a cosmic level Thor story.
Yeah. And then this whole shaking through all the planets. And then we cut to this. It's just genius.
Well, and Walt, this is an example of something Walt will do throughout this issue and throughout the next few issues and stuff. But he's great at being like, he gives you amazing stuff, but he places the camera in ways to save himself time. But his drawing is so good. He's not like he's not cheating it. Like if we extend the guy in the foreground walking, who we have to assume is someone he knew. Mm-hmm. But it certainly looks like it would be an homage to trying to sneak a friend in or something.
Yeah.
If you extend his legs down, like everyone, all the perspective works and stuff, but it's it's more graphically interesting having this big foreground character.
Right, and one of the things that even as a kid I noticed that the skateboarder is pointing at him. And the guy's legs running the background, they're pointing at him, like the triangle, the trees and everything point down to Thor. To Blake.
Yeah. Dr. Donald.
Yeah. And then.
Oh, I miss Donald.
Yeah.
Ouch. All right. Now that bottom panel is such a great. The interesting thing is that I wonder if Bill Watterson looked at Simonson, because sometimes I see a little bit of Simonson in Bill Watterson.
Mm-hmm. I think they were looking at the same influences, whatever it was before that. I
think that's a very solid argument as well. But all right, that bottom panel is so great. Like, and it's an exact, thing about what I was talking about. Just creating a so much more graphically interesting shot of someone, because it's not really important who's picking up the frisbee, but it keeps it going. That it keeps that storytelling going. It's just such a great, interesting shot.
Yep.
Yeah. And here's the. Nope. God dang it. This one.
Oh.
I skipped ahead. There we go. But it was done black and white.
So good. Even just the grass on that bottom panel,
Yeah.
Rather than having them stand on the bottom.
It's so easy to get wrapped up in the story, especially with great colors and really powerful colors, and you focus on what's happening. But with the black and the white, you can really just see his lines, how he's guiding your eye.
Yeah.
How that the angle of the frisbee points right back, right? It comes down, points right back, and then down. Like that forms its own V. Like he's really moving your eye.
Walt's also really, really great at negative space and blank stuff too. And so just the amount of there's all the texture that we need in that thing and all the perspective going back, in Central. Oh wait, no, they're in Chicago, not Central Park.
Yeah, Central. They're in Chicago.
But but then the fact that there is those big empty swaths of space too, it gives your eye some space to breathe.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so then what I love about the transition there is we don't see these guys until we need to see these guys. I think that he fits so much story in that and it's old school storytelling, kind of what we learned when we were kids, Scott and Steve. Like you would pick the beats and you would show only the necessary beats. Now even I do this. I show a lot of, I think, maybe unnecessary moments to try and get some sort of cinematic flow going.
Yeah. I think it's because you're used to doing storyboards where you can't use the panel borders as ways to cut out time, because the previous page is only 4 panels. He arguably could have maybe snuck these guys in a silhouette and but I think it's more effective to just suddenly have them sweeping out of nowhere, and then that second panel is so great because it's definitely just a great example of what you can do in comics. The third one too, I guess, where because you're not restricted to just using the rectangle in the certain shape that you use in storyboards, like you can, we don't need to see all of the car, like we're seeing everything that we need to see. Just Don getting shuffled in. I mean, they took his cane away pretty,
Well, I mean, clearly they knew what was what, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's not a generic car.
They're spies.
Yeah, they're spies. And also, I think it's really interesting because Scott and I talk about later on that Simonson gets rid of the Donald Blake character. And I think right away he shows just how weak that character. I mean, that it's an incredible weakness for Thor. That all you do is take the cane away. And these 2 schmoes can do it without catching them by surprise. It's bananas.
Well, the cool thing is he also kind of sets it up here that he doesn't quite tell us what's going on. But he uses that whole cane take away weakness as one of the linchpins for the story.
Oh yeah, no, he's totally setting up.
It plays in later.
Yeah,
it's a perfect setup.
All right,
more great workman lettering, and now we're getting like high tech, word balloons after getting all the kind of magic searcher word balloon or sound effects.
And this is the first time, I know, like I said, I noticed the lettering for the first time, but I don't know if anyone does that open panel lettering the way Workman does.
No, it became very stylistic of him. And I don't know if it was more Walt's idea or his, but that was one of those genius maneuvers.
Yeah, because another thing that set this book apart, I've actually been trying to figure out a way to do it for my book, the image book that I'm working on, because it's a fantasy book and it seems to fit well. With the genre more so than I think a sci-fi book, but
I did it on Adam.
Yeah, no, I thought it looked great. I think it does. It adds a little bit of depth and density to the lettering, I think.
Well, and it just graphically breaks things up too. It doesn't make everything just a box. Even if you draw, a 4-panel grid or a 6-panel grid, but you do that stuff to it, those things will immediately then change the shape of the panel, basically. So you're never doing just a box anymore.
Totally.
It really moves it up and changes things around. It's such a brilliant maneuver.
Yeah. Here's the next.
And funny is the old school rules, like you wouldn't. Oh, I'm about to get ahead of ourselves. That's a great.
Look at that car.
Vroom.
Right, and once again, Steve, that thing about those guys are in the foreground. Like we don't need to see their faces. We see their hands.
Right.
As they're giving one last little bit of dialogue as the car drives off.
And again,
the storytelling stuff, they're telling us that they don't know what this is about. So it refers to it in the second that Nick's going to tell us that he knows who Don Blake is, but nobody else does. So they even basically say it here that they don't know what's going on either. So it keeps the secret safe.
There we go. That's our reveal of Nick. Like he doesn't get his, it's not a whole big payoff shot. It's just, he's not even his whole head is in there.
He just never gets a hero shot. He's a supporting character, right? Like, And if you think about it, we're on page, what is this, page
4?
Just whatever it is, but we still haven't seen Thor.
No, I was going to comment on that too, because then even right after this, when Thor starts to quote unquote get in the story, make the appearance, Walt's hiding him.
He does. Yeah.
Until the shot where he's catching up with the spaceship, he's hiding him. He's waiting for that reveal. It's just genius.
It's a Joliet Jake and the Blues Brothers holding back. You know,
Yep.
we don't see John Belushi until 6 minutes in.
Right.
Or like Dark Knight, how many pages did we have to wait for Batman to finally show up?
Yeah.
Again,
and that was perfect for the time because those were based upon us being comic book readers, having read the stuff a million times over. And that was a way to change the system, was that usually, the hero had appeared by the first, second, latest, the third page, for crying out loud. Of course they're there.
Right.
But we'd all been reading stuff, so this shook it up.
Little Sears Tower in the back there.
Yeah, a little context. Another thing that I love too, and this is, when you learn how to tell stories in comics and you tell stories and storyboards, and Jones and I have talked about this a lot too, just because you're right. Like how you use time and what you show it's really tricky to move back and forth. And I think that's one of the things that's the most difficult about doing comics and then doing storyboards is that the way I experience and work with the fourth dimension, it's so different that it takes me a while to make that shift. Like, were you drawing this as a storyboard, you would have shown the car turn into flight mode.
Right.
You would never have just cut to flight mode. But here you can. He says we're cutting to flight mode, and you go to flight mode. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. And it's so hard to know what to show and what not to show.
Well, and that's one of those magic things too, that he was writing it himself. So he's like, well, I'm going to save myself time and not draw, 15 more shots of this car.
Right.
I'll just write it in a word balloon so we can keep it rolling. Because, we got pages to fill. We got stuff to get through in this issue. We can't dawdle.
Right. You can't dawdle. And it's not important.
I also like in that shot of the car taking off, similar to when Surtur is like cocking, like say a lot of people would have just maybe had the car flying in exactly the way with the energy trailing behind it, but the fact that he has it circle back deeper into the frame, you know what I mean? Like, it's just another little great,
Right, like he ties in that subconscious graphic design into this panel because it is exactly the same arc.
Yep.
Coyote Duran says, I think that's actually the John Hancock Center in that panel on the right.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay. For a second, I thought he meant like that Walt had snuck his John Hancock, his signature into the thing. But okay. Thank you for correcting my Chicago geography if I misspoke. I've only been to Chicago twice. Once it was the hottest place on earth. The second time it was the coldest place on earth.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough when you just go there for a show and you're there for a weekend.
That's Chicago.
Yeah. All right. And then we see, I love this panel because what's important in that shot is the staff, is the cane.
Oh yeah.
Because he's talking about who he is.
Just another great example of like, Walt shoving things into the foreground to, I mean, it's such a skinny panel and there's so many words in it and it's still such a graphically interesting panel. And I love Sam Jackson, Nick Fury, but I do miss this Nick Fury that we grew up with too,
Mm-hmm. It's a different eye, right? Doesn't Sam Jackson have his right eye as the
I think you're right. I think you're correct, actually.
Well, I think there are times when they've gotten it wrong, probably on both the books or all the books.
I've drawn Nick Fury before and messed it up. I'm not gonna lie. You forget sometimes.
Hey, that's what you actually need an editor for.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. And then so one of the things that Walt Simonson does that I love, and I think that very few people do it as well, maybe George Perez, he has the best special effects.
Yeah.
And totally idiosyncratic. Nobody else does it like this.
Yeah.
Well, because graphically, there's a lot of great stuff. Like in the previous one, when the car is first driving away, like just the shapes of the smoke are really good. But exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, but
yeah,
I don't think anyone ever. I think he's definitely the second best Kirby dot person besides Kirby.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And uses them in his own way too.
Well, one of the things that was really fascinating when I moved into animation, when I joined Steve in animation, is that every job, there's all the different aspects of drawing are a different job. Like there's props, there's characters, there's storyboards, but there's also effects. The guys who draw water and lightning, and electricity and explosions and all that stuff, that's a whole different department.
Yep.
It's
Not
amazing.
in comics.
Yeah. And so one of the things that's tough is that kind of graphic sensibility of drawing things that don't really exist. That's really hard.
Yep.
All right.
Well, that's, I mean, in that with his effects, like again, his negative space, or just when, where the big empty spaces where he's not putting stuff, it's just masterful as well. Like otherwise, because he doesn't weigh down the page either,
And so we're going to go to one of my all-time favorite panels in a comic next. I saw this and
It's so good.
This is the greatest panel ever.
So good. Well, that was again the way he chose to crop the helicarrier, because Jeff, if you drew this, I'm sure you would have been tempted to most likely pull the camera back a little bit more.
I would have pulled way too far back. I would have shown too many things on top of the helicarrier pad. I was
about to say, never do a top down.
Right, Jeff, you would have wanted to show all of the helicarrier and all of its glory as best as possible. And what's amazing is that, all right, so he chose to not break the panel borders with a helicarrier, and he does do it with the jets.
Yeah.
But what I feel like the implication of how he's framed it with a helicarrier is essentially to go, look, it's so big it can't be contained in a panel.
Exactly.
Like there's no camera that's big enough to adequately show it.
The great white whale that is.
Yeah.
And it looks aggressive, like it's just going to come and I mean, the thing at the bottom I now just realized is extremely phallic. The teeth look like it's just, it looks like a big scary, like whale / shark that's just going to come and swallow you whole.
A monster. Well, one of the things I really love about this particular shot of it is like, the car is small, right? So the line goes in and see arrows that point to it. But then the other thing is, how much paint do you think it took to paint that gigantic shield eagle on it? It's bigger, like
the ones that's like about 5 stories high, 6 stories high.
At least it's gigantic. That's one of my all-time favorite panels. And then we just jump right to there.
And
Amazing.
he's hiding Thor.
Still hiding Thor.
Totally hiding Thor.
So awesome. It's so awesome. Sitwell. Jasper Sitwell.
Yeah. So Scott and I were talking earlier, and Jones, you would know this since you are the encyclopedia when it comes to
we need
characters. No pressure.
Is Jasper Sitwell? We know that he's been around for a long time and he's a Shield character, but like Scott was wondering if he shows up later on. What was the book, Scott? Oh wait, I lost Scott.
Scott, come back.
So
it's just me.
All right. So tell us about Sitwell. Doesn't he wind up being a main character in a bunch of other stuff?
In comics?
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I can't. Sorry to let you guys down on my nerd knowledge, but I don't think my Shield information is that deep. I mean, I know Jasper Sitwell. I'm trying to think of where he first showed up. He probably showed up in Steranko's Shield stuff.
Johnson looked it up, and he's actually from a Kirby book. But I just had this feeling in the back of my head that he was from that X Factor stuff, because there's that. No, now I just remembered the name. Shoot, it's Cameron Hodge.
Oh yeah.
Cameron Hodge was their guy who was working the X Factor building or something like that, and then he betrays the X Factors.
There you go.
Sorry, wrong tunnel.
Scott answered his own question.
Mystery solved. So this panel reminds me of, remember you guys Enter the Dragon, that scene where he's being given the lowdown on going to the island, Hans Island?
Mm.
Yeah.
This scene always reminded me of that.
Oh, yeah. It's a little bit of 007, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he's keeping all of the Thor isms to a minimum in all of this. Thor says very little. He doesn't say a whole lot very flagrant. He did on the previous page as they were coming up to the helicarrier. And even at that point, Nick Fury's like, oh, I can't wait for the rest of the guys in the office to get a load of your diction.
Right.
It's such a great shot, though, because there's no other drawing in the background, but if you did draw out all those details, it would be correct. You know what I mean?
But I don't need
Once
it.
again, Walt just gives us what's important, right? No wasted time.
Nope.
And then we get to Sitwell.
Oh, so good.
I would have been so thrilled if it would have been Cameron Hodge.
Sorry, Scott.
Walt, I'm trying to make you smarter. Come on, man, work with me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's so much to know about nerdy comics that sometimes we go awry.
Well, I just thought it was a neat connection between Walt because he'd worked on both books.
Well, look at all that background information, right?
Yeah.
All that exposition done in a really interesting way, and that visual of the spaceship sucking up the sun is so cool. And I think I actually have the black and white for that. Hang on a second. Nope.
Whoops.
Nope.
There it is.
Go.
Wow.
But look at that page comp is like, so it's really the part where Sitwell is giving all his exposition is those middle panels, they are bracketed by the dark shadows on that page, right? So it's the light within the moody darkness in the lighting. It's all really interesting. How not only do every one of his panels is beautifully composed. This whole page, he's always got
incredible. And to end it with that giant black face of Thor, all in shadow.
So
Kirby's
cool.
McFury's got some kind of like Kevin Nolan style monster lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, double lit.
So
and I love the special effect of the TV going dead on the panel before.
Yeah.
The probe being destroyed and not giving any more info.
Right. So there's Thor, which kind of we get a good shot of his face, but still shadowed, still kind of hidden. And then you turn the page, and then bang.
There we go.
Now he's our hero.
Here's what you're paying for, kids.
Oh,
that's how you do an introduction, folks.
And then look at that. Still, there's again that great shot of the Helicarrier, and then Walt signed this one. Right. Thank you, Coyote Duran, even though that's not what you meant. But and then that's right. Coyote Duran had a good comment on Sitwell's suit. He's like, that suit, it's right out of a Talking Heads video, meaning I'm assuming David Burns stopped making sense, the big suit.
And Walt kind of drew suits like that.
Oh, the 80s. It was the 80s.
And look, now I never noticed this before. How much? I mean, Walt is always drawing our eye, but the fact he did it again, right? Like with the fact that the line is coming off, where the Thor's directional thing is coming all the way back. It draws us all the way back to the Helicarrier.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and he's got Mjolnir off panel. Nobody does that these days. Everyone, you got to put it inside the panel. You got to show it.
Yeah, well, it's not even a real full figure of Thor. Like his legs missing. Like his.
Yeah. But again, it feels like it doesn't feel like it's a mistake. I can remember in the 90s drawing comic book pages where it was just mistakes. You know what I mean? Like before we had the technology where I just was grabbing my light blue color race pencil and going right onto the page. And then if shit ended up outside the panel, it ended up outside the panel because I couldn't draw it again.
Yeah. I don't think anything Walt Simonson does is by accident.
Right.
Though I think a lot of it is instinctive.
Art first 4786. The foreshortening is so exaggerated, but it works. I mean, it feels like this feels to me like Walt's version of Kirby foreshortening, but it's being put through the Walt filter. You know what I mean? Yep. So it isn't evocative of Kirby at all, except for the extremity of it. You know what I mean? But he's not trying to use Kirby tropes and visual language that Kirby uses to do a very similar kind of thing.
Yep. No, and in fact, this is also like, to me, the beginning stages of Walt really playing around with his superhero proportions and everything. Because on this Thor stuff, I remember it was one of the things for the first time I'm like, holy cow, that guy looks like 14 heads high.
Yeah, he's gigantic. Gigantic. And then, so then that gives you what you're looking for. And then we cut to this.
Well, and again, I mean, and he does it again now with the energy of what he does with the Bifrost, right? Like it's drawing
Zooming
us
you in
right
around.
It's drawing us right out of the last panel, directly that energy, and it's sucking us right into where we need to go next. So goddamn beautiful.
A second. Do I have? Oh, nope. I skipped ahead again. Sorry, guys. Okay, I don't have
You
that.
son of a bitch, Jeff.
I know.
We've got the subplot. Stick with the subplot, Jeff.
I know. Right. There we go. Yeah. And then, so just the composition of that bottom panel. Like, yes, it's a beautiful shot of Asgard with the crazy space and everything. Very Kirby. But like, look at Volstagg.
Yeah, this is all right. Yeah. Then I want to speak to the restraint, right, Jeff? Because it's like, I mean, I think if you're drawing this page, your brain would have blown up and exploded because you're like, well, wait, I want to draw an awesome shot of Thor, and I want to draw the helicarrier, and I want to draw an amazing establishing shot of Asgard, and I want to draw an amazing establishing shot of Volstagg, Balder,
in this hall,
and Sif. And then and so the fact that he does give us our Thor payoff that we've been, aching for, and we still get another great shot of the helicarrier, but that's just an incredible shot of Asgard in the Bifrost, and it's just so suggestive, right? Like it probably wouldn't have even taken that long to draw, and then the ingenuity to think of that shot, like the hints that we get of the mead hall, that is such a great shot of just Sif's boots, you know, just the shape of Volstagg, and then the way Balder's
and backgrounds are important. Everything I always, get caught up in them myself. But like you just said, there was restraint. Look at the last panel with that mead hall. He barely gives you anything. It is in perspective, so you really feel that there's something there. So he really plays it down a huge amount. You could have gotten lost in all that, sculpture or anything else going on in that room.
I would have definitely wasted time drawing all the various statuary and doors and all
that too.
I mean, and here's the thing about it, like, it's not important. What's important is Sif and Volstagg and that sad little figure of Balder back there.
Yeah. I also think it's a habitual thing for us now to wind up using or wasting that time, depending on how you're looking at it, because we usually have all these extra panels of dialogue.
Yeah.
So then you've got to fill it up somewhere. And he doesn't have that. This is the old school going, like, in 22 pages, we got to be somewhere really cool. We can't wait.
Yeah, we have a lot of ground to cover. Yep. Isn't that great shot?
Amazing.
And I had loved all this stuff that he had done with Balder. The idea that he had gone to hell and been changed by it, been traumatized by it, all this kind of stuff. So now he's going to be kind of this rejected god or whatnot, where in the past, he had just been another version of Thor, basically. He was just an ultimate good guy who would always do the right thing, help a brother, help a friend, whatever it was. And he's still that guy deep down, but we've given him a story arc here, which is so cool. Is like, he's got to come back from where he's gone.
Well, Walt's such a great writer, right? Because yes, we got to have there be consequences of having gone to hell. And then it's also like, okay, look, Balder is perfect. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Balder the beautiful. Balder is the most handsome. He's like never has any problems. And so the fact that we're gonna like now show him with gray hair and double chins, it's like, it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's almost as much daring and craziness as the Beta Ray Bill being on the cover.
Yeah, right. Like, because he's telling, not only is he telling a Thor story, he's really expanding. Well, I mean, the characters were already there and they all had their stories, but like, he's really addressing these characters as people, right?
Yep. And he's challenging the role. Like he's challenging the role of women and Sif in the story and saying, look, maybe Sif's tired of just always being the maybe there for Thor when Thor may or may not decide, if he wants Sif this month, like she's looking, this latest rejection from Thor. It's like, is my whole life just waiting for Thor?
Right.
And like Walt's stuff with Sif's incredible. Plus, I mean, again, to go back to Kirby, like Walt draws Sif like a combination of Big Barda and a Frazetta woman. You know?
Yeah.
And there's not too many people that can draw well enough to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And Scott, like, would you have the balls to just draw half of her face as her introduction?
No. Or the panel before that, from behind, the hair shot. I mean, maybe or whatever, but I would only have done that first panel of behind of just the hairdo, only if the next panel I would have, drawn this, my best female shot I could ever, whatever, of this beautiful face trying to sum her up or whatnot.
Absolutely. I would have fallen into that same trap.
But in that same time, this part of the story isn't about her. We're showing her discontent and whatnot, but this scene is actually about finding out what has so much dramatically changed with Balder.
Right. Yep.
We'll get to Sif's story because that continues on with the next issues.
Balder, I barely know her.
Right.
Sorry, that's horrible. But what are you gonna do? That's more Bifrost magic.
Yeah. So basically the same shot as before of Asgard, so we remember it. So we don't need any. It's
right.
So it's just he's very. You know what it is? He's just so goddamn efficient.
Yep.
There's never a wasted word. There's never a wasted line.
He's learned the comic book language.
And again, right, shoving Heimdall in the foreground, but there's it's efficiency and it's restraint, right? Like, because he can look. So many of us would try to do some of the shots that Walt's doing to hide what we can't draw, right?
Yeah.
I
don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, that was a big thing for me in the 90s or different points of like, I can't really draw this. So what can I draw? And let me draw around what I can't draw. And then I think Jeff draws so well, like just, Jeff's so great at creating a window that you're looking into another world. Then I think sometimes he falls into the trap of, well, because I can draw this all so well, I'm gonna. I
often show way too much, and I pull focus a lot, I feel. And that's one of the lessons I really had that doing storyboards helped with, is like, what is this shot exactly about?
Yep.
You can't waste the reader's attention on something that isn't pivotal.
So I think that's part of why he is so masterful, because these shots are efficient, but you have to think them up, so it's like our friend Dave Johnson talking about quoting, Toth, sort of think more and draw less. So it's like,
right.
Because a shot like this might not be the first one that occurs to you either. Like, sometimes your brain might go to something that's very informational as you're trying to visualize the scene. And then that might just be the first thing you go with. And then the next, like, if you can just start pulling these shots out of the air, God bless you, But again, I think it's not just efficiency; it's restraint, which I think is kind of crazy.
And then,
brother sister moment.
God, he really does. One of the things I think is really incredible about Walt and other guys who write and draw, which is constantly a battle, and Dan does this really good too.
He does, son of a bitch.
Yeah, where if you're writing and drawing something, you can combine the words and the pictures, I think, in a way that happens when you have a great writer that you're working with and you guys have a good relationship. I think that happens, and that's a beautiful magic. But when you are doing it yourself, I think there's just something really inherently succinct about the combination of words and pictures that
absolutely
that gets lost when you're not doing it all yourself.
It's hard to time too. I think when I started to write and draw something, then I mistimed. And then there's a kind of a monologue here, so I'll do a couple things here, and then not realizing like, oh shit, like I thought I could do this monologue in 3 balloons, but it's 7 balloons. There isn't enough time.
Yeah, like knowing how much real estate dialogue is going to take is a really important. That's one of the things that is different about drawing comics and storyboards, is composing in the word balloons and knowing how much time it'll take you to read them and visually absorb them. It's definitely a different kind of skill.
Yeah.
And then back to this. We have this quiet moment between the two of them. It's very character driven, and it's almost a soft moment.
A lovely little subplot.
And then bang.
Yeah. And I was telling you before that Thor figure, they had separated, cut out from its background. I don't even know if they finished the hammer or Thor's fingers on there, but I had that Thor figure on a T-shirt.
Oh yeah,
from around that
time.
Oh
God, that one's so good. And again, he can draw that particular shot of a hand so well, and that the fact that he frames it out, like, you know, if I could draw a hand that well, I'd be having it pop out of the panel border. You know.
Exactly. I would show off. Well, that's the thing that Walt does. Like he's so confident, and he's not really showing off.
And look how good just the way Thor's circles are wrapping around his frame. You know, like his torso.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that black and white version of it.
Totally explains all the 3D dimensionality of his structure and everything. It's great.
Yeah.
Then we have like an amazing, like, you know, the Yamato, you know, from Argo.
Oh god! But look how the cape leads down, and the thumb and the fingers lead down into that next panel. Like, like we're doing it panel by panel. But one of the things as I was rereading it is just his page compositions are they're so almost subliminal in the way that they lead the eye.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And then look at that. I mean, the colors. Who's the colorist again? He does a really incredible job.
George Roussos is credited.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that Thor's blue is kind of Superman's baby blue.
Well, yeah. Well, what's interesting is the use of the primary colors, yellow, red, and blue.
Yeah.
Like that's all the best. I mean, obviously they use them for the reasons of simplicity, and that was what, you know, that's an availability. But the primary colors really do make you feel, you know, that they are a hero, that they are primary.
Yeah. I remember the first time I heard that psychology of the color stuff as far as superheroes and stuff, that most superheroes have the primary colors and most villains have the secondary complementary colors. But like, oh, wow, they do. That's they really so do. Cool.
Like the Green Goblin, great, but secondary.
Yep. Joker, usually it's the greens and purples.
Yep, greens and purples.
Which is why, you know, it's supposed to be scary, whatnot, the way that Hulk is.
Yeah, because he's an anti-hero.
Yep. And why Thing is orange, that's a complementary color. It's not one of the primary colors, secondary.
Yeah, with the blues of the Fantastic Four, right?
Because he's a freaking monster.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it's funny to me, you know, as you get older and I put a lot more thought into my work, and I think that I'm breaking new ground, I realize that people who've been doing comics are thinking on these levels and have been thinking on them since the beginning.
The good ones, absolutely.
Yeah. And there's that cool spaceship.
So cool.
So Scott,
that's so pretty.
And he didn't even put space backgrounds with his warping and everything else going on.
Well, it's like that's like hyperspace.
Yeah. I know.
So Jones, Scott, and I were talking earlier about how the fact that one of the things I love is just how powerful.
You guys had the pre-show.
We had a little bit of the pre-show. So Thor just, you know, teleports in front of the ship.
Yeah.
With his hammer.
Well, where it was when it was traveling.
Right. And then it's traveling, as Fury said, many times the speed of light. So then he catches up to it. Think about how powerful that is. And it's just barely mentioned. It's like, oh yeah, I'm traveling many times the speed of light through the power of my hammer.
And he's only traveling slow enough so that the ship can track him and take aim.
Right. And then it starts shooting at him.
Yeah.
Like the cool shot.
I love all the hot pinks in here, George Roussos.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's possible that Walt might have asked for a couple of these things too, or something like that, and had suggestions. Like he might have been in the office and talked to George about it. No,
maybe not.
I'm just kidding. No,
zapping them.
I think I need another sip of whiskey.
Oh, there you go. All right, so Scott's been working on a thing, and I haven't wanted to talk about it because I'm waiting for the right moment. But then,
no, keep going. Yeah.
yeah. So I just love, so once again, I can't get over it. I'm so nerding out on the fact that they're traveling faster than the speed of light, and he throws his hammer. It's like that old Stephen Wright joke. Like, if you were traveling the speed of light and you turned on your headlights,
yeah, right.
what would happen?
Nothing.
Yeah. Well, not unless you're Thor, because you can throw your hammer many times the speed of light.
Science.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love the negative space sound effect.
Yeah.
It's so good. All right.
So many bold, wonderful choices.
The hammer always returns, right? That's going to be important later. We've
yep.
talked
Again, we're setting it up, baby.
We have.
Oh yeah, there's so much good Chris Claremont, Stan Lee classic. Also, just telling us through little bits of, exposition snuck in. That's important storytelling.
Well, remember that the Don Blake page that we get at the beginning of him going through the park, he does all the great regular isms that you want back at that place. He tells you who he is, tells you what he's doing, tells you he's also Thor, but it's this and that. Totally gets you up to date if you've never read a Thor comic book.
And I think that's really important too, because
in one panel.
Yeah, not only was that the standard at the time, is to assume that someone had never read a Thor comic book before and that you needed to get the information.
Yep.
I mean, if we could go back really fast to that last, right. All right. Thor's throwing a hammer in space. But what I also love about that bounce off shot is it's like, it does the great, because the energy is taking us right to the bottom corner of the page. But then the fact that Thor's hammer deflects back up, it's like it's interrupting and stopping us in the flow. It's saying, okay, Thor's not making it,
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great observation, Steve, because it comes down and then it bounces back up, right? And that takes us off the page. But then look where the hammer comes back from. It comes back from that angle.
From up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's the flow of action is consistent in the borders, right?
Yeah.
In that empty space, the lines of motion are still consistent. I mean, I think that's really something that maybe he's doing it instinctually, maybe he's planning it, but I think that really sells the story when you're reading a book, that you just flow along. Like, it doesn't even occur to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then he's just tearing off big pieces.
Uh,
I love that. I love that so much. And then we get inside the ship, right? And that's just cool.
It's amazing.
The colors are cool. Like cool colors, not the hot reds of his red of the explosion that was going on outside.
And Jeff, again, I think this is another great, I feel like I've seen you draw a version of this shot. You can draw it amazingly, and you would have moved the camera up higher to see more.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it would have had to take up more of the thing, Walt's perspective is just slightly a little bit more next level, because he keeps moving it down. Like, it's dynamic. It's informational, but it's more dynamic than if he brought the camera up higher,
Yeah. I think that once again, I would have felt that I needed to show more.
Yep.
It's the same way as sometimes, I don't know if you guys do this, but like, if the drawing is not working out well, and I don't feel like I've nailed the shapes or the composition, I will add a lot of detail. Like, I'll throw in lots of bells and whistles and line work and whatnot to cover the fact that I don't feel good about the drawing.
Yep.
Well,
my work's all bells and whistles.
Right. It's just
you sound like the Binko Binko Man.
More cowbell. That's my approach to drawing.
And that's my approach to art. It needs more bell.
That is more rock and roll.
Yeah, it needs more cowbell. Yeah, look at that cool design.
Amazing.
Look at that little upshot of Thor in the middle. Such a beautiful Thor upshot.
And I also just love Rinky Dink Thor that's so tiny, and just one Thor eyeball tells us all the information that we need.
Yeah, man.
In Crash.
And also, there's no background behind that in that first panel. He doesn't waste any time showing us the ship. We've seen it.
Yep.
Or what's important is Thor walking up to that shadowy figure in the thing, and then all the great sound effects, the warning sounds, and then the crunching up.
Yeah, I mean, think of how different it would have been if Michael Golden would have drawn this.
I think that those guys have a very similar sensibility when it comes to economy of information.
Well, he certainly did on some levels on the Doctor Strange thing we had reviewed before, but at the same time, there were plenty of shots where we're like, oh my God, look at that, brazier over here and all that kind of stuff. Going, this is so cool.
He would have put the coolest stuff in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but at the same time, Mike's book wouldn't have come out for 3 or 6 months. Past the due date, probably.
And I would have stolen every panel out of that too. And
then no, absolutely.
And so what I love it, so we had the crunch, but then we cut away.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, yeah, because I mean that's a little cliffhanger for us.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
His storytelling visually guides the eye, but then also his storytelling structurally guides your emotions. Like it gets you high, it takes you low. It just you're going on a roller coaster with this issue.
Yeah. And we ain't slowing down for nothing.
And then take a look at Loki, green.
And look, he pops so fucking well.
Yeah.
And his red bird, the contrast there, the complementary colors.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, just those weird, horrible things in the foreground leading us back to the castle. Again, like it's a great, interesting shape of the castle, but then there's not that much. So that panel probably didn't take that long, but to be able to be good enough to think of that panel and put it together, again, I mean, to pick on all of us, I'll stop just picking on Jeff. Like,
no, it's okay. I deserve it.
No, I mean, you guys both. It just hurts thinking about.
It's just amazing. I mean, Walt is another one of those that's really so good at the iconography of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So he's picking the things that are going to attract your brain, pick your brain going, I'm going to tell you this right now. There's these, those dragon heads or whatever the carvings on the bottom of this thing that are leading to it. So we know it's Norse, we know it's this and that. And then the ramp up to the castle and just giving you enough of that. So it's like, you understand this. You've got a snapshot of this in your brain. Yeah. You move to the next panel. Also, they're warning you away. They're a little bit scary. And I think I forget if it's attributed to Jefferson. I've heard the quote from a different previous, like, I'm sorry, this letter wasn't shorter. I didn't have time. Right? Like, I mean, I'm sure some fan will know exactly what I'm saying, but like, there's definitely the idea that brevity might actually take longer to do. Like it might absolutely
require more thought than just throwing down, which what I would do was just belabor it and load it up.
Nick Lindsay, there's so many details in each panel. Do you think he did all this in all of this page in one day? I think probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think he did.
Because there's at least how many? There's 6, 7. I don't know how many issues in a row before there's a fill-in.
Right. And he's inking this too. He's writing. He's also inking it. So yeah. He did it in a day. I think he did do it in a day. Maybe a little bit more, but probably not.
Because he's penciling and inking, right?
Yeah. And I mean, and writing, and probably overseeing the colors, and also
checking on the lettering. Yeah.
Yeah, doing everything.
Because this would be old school. So he's handing off the pencils, sending them off to John Workman. Yeah. Workman letters them on the board, and then he gets them back to ink.
I think Terry Austin did ink like the 5th or 6th Walt issue. So maybe
that's one of my all-time favorites, The Last Asgardian.
That was a little way to save a little bit of time, I guess, was to have Terry help out.
Right.
Yeah, no, I don't think Walt was actually the fastest guy. I think he was one of those guys who was a little bit of that Toth you were talking about, where he would spend a lot of time thinking about it before he'd wind up drawing it.
Well, I mean, and I guess we all feel the crush of the deadline, right? Whether it's Scott trying to do his pages a day, or Jeff, or me and Jeff doing pages a day or panels. And very often in the hurry to get it done, you'll go with the thing that you thought of that is the thing. But sometimes it's actually faster to go slower, but that's a really, really hard thing to realize. You know what I mean? Like taking
it can save you from redraws.
Yeah.
Or from like drawing too much of a thing that's too, you know, I mean, some of these choices that Walt made, they took extra time to think about.
Yeah.
But then they would have taken less time to draw once you thought of it. And that will still be, you'll still be spending, that will be cheaper time-wise than drawing the shot, you know, the
Absolutely.
You know, the every detail of everything.
Well, what's that old painter's adage? Measure twice, cut once, or measure, take.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not so good on the quotes today.
Or whiskey.
Yeah, drink up.
Oh,
All right. So, and then there's this one and this one.
again, great stuff he's setting up.
To a character.
It's amazing.
Right, like no waste of time. She winds up becoming a very important character in the saga.
Yep.
Laura Lee.
Right, so, and there we go. And then
Yeah, and it's all very mythological based. Here, even though we're having a sci-fi battle in space and all that, which is the mix of a Marvel Comics, Jack Kirby, Thor thing, is that the mix of the sci-fi and the mythology.
Well, Walt was kind enough to be on the other Drink and Draw show, and he not only does he talk about, and he's clearly a scholar when it comes to all the mythology and whatnot. Like,
yeah,
he has really studied this stuff. Like, he knows it. I would say he could probably. I wouldn't be surprised if he could teach a class in any university on Norse mythology and have it be as good as any professor.
Probably, yeah.
And again, now we just see again the horses in the foreground, right? Like, how long would it have taken to draw a huge group of horse guys coming? It would have taken a really long time.
I've done it. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, horses are hard.
This solves all of the problems far more artistically.
Mm-hmm.
Although within all of that, you know, that orange horse that's in the kind of midground is a beautiful horse.
Yeah, look at the flow of that.
The figure work there on that horse is just beautiful.
Yeah.
And yet simple. It, you know, it's almost just a iconography kind of cutout piece of artwork for an animal or for that horse.
So here's a quick comment. So Walt would thumbnail everything.
That makes perfect sense, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure he would.
I'm sure he would do that while he was writing it, trying to figure out the balance of words and pictures.
Yeah, I think he's actually, both him and Frank Miller, I think both do that a lot, where they're drawing their pictures and they're figuring that stuff out at the same time that they're figuring out plot and dialogue and everything else as they're working as like a whole piece.
Yeah, which images go together.
And that I really haven't done. Most of the time for me, I have to come up with a script first to run through the 50 different images instead of drawing those 50 different shots like we were talking about, going, was the shot better or is the down shot better? Is the up shot better? Should I, from the left, right? What should I do here?
Well, I think if you're telling...
I can get in the weeds with that.
Like, so Scott and I have done a project recently where the writers did not get along like with the artist, and there was a discrepancy and a disagreement about what penciling and drawing, what part of the writing stage that was. And my contention is that the writer writes the first draft and that the artist writes the final draft. And that when you are both, that these are just different drafts of your story.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way. I mean,
the writers didn't like that, by the way.
Again,
no, they usually don't.
To the George Rousseau's use of hot pink.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, Walt is so good. Lorelei is such an appealing character and different than Sith.
She is 100% the anti-Sith.
Well, they're both spunky.
No, well, look, they're both beautiful, but I'm just saying they're very distinct. You know.
Right, yeah. They are visually the opposite of each other.
Yeah,
right?
You wouldn't confuse them.
And then, so after that moment, we cut back to this. And we still haven't seen this character yet. We've seen Thor, and now we get Thor in full color, right? We know who Thor is.
We don't usually see Thor's helmet.
And he's getting beat up.
He's getting beat up. So whoever this mystery new character is kicking his ass.
Yep.
And then we get the best reveal of a brand new character. And I have to admit, when I saw this character for the first time, I thought, what the F?
Yep.
What the hell's going on? Bang.
Oh.
That was a different bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
Not like anything I'd ever seen before.
Incredible. I mean, very alien. All the technology looks incredibly alien.
Yeah. Now, so when this came out, because I know that Walt did Alien, like he worked on the book Alien.
Yes, he'd done the Alien
Marvel edition.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that influenced his creation of Beta Ray Bill?
The horse face?
Yeah.
Maybe to some degree. I mean, but he also worked it into the story, right? Because Beta Ray Bill's been genetically engineered. Like he's more humanoid, kind of like Norrin Rad.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's just, it's such an incredible design.
In interviews, Walt has said that Bill's face and all that is him doing that dichotomy of, it's kind of like a horse face,
mm-hmm.
which most people think of as beautiful, but then he made it more skeleton-like or whatnot, so that it actually is like deadly or deathly looking. It's very imposing and scary.
Yeah.
Very monstrous looking, which makes it even more of that thing of, how people judge or whatnot, where how in this world can this guy pick up the hammer?
Totally. Right. Like
right.
that, the question of what is worthy, right?
Because I don't think they'd ever even set up because it's in the late 80s that I feel like during the Ron Friends era of Thor, where they set up that Steve Rogers can pick up the hammer. So this is pre that. I don't think they've ever hinted that Steve or anyone else could pick up the hammer at this point.
Right. I don't think they had at this point either. No.
Interesting. Yeah. Look at that black and white. Look at his use of dark black and shape and shadow.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
His hands are so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The gnarly knuckles and everything. So cool.
And I know that this is old school of me, but I love the lettering on the page.
Oh yeah. It's the best that way.
I think it just makes the page better.
Yep. I'm waiting for the day when that can come up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Beta Ray Bill. Oh, such a badass. Okay, hang on a second. Let me find. There's that.
No wonder everybody fell in love with him.
Oh, yeah. But
everybody immediately fell in love with this character. He's so cool.
He's orange. He's not a primary color. He's got red in there and some yellow.
Yeah, in fact, on my printed copy, to me, it looks way more orange.
Yeah.
Which is what I think it's supposed to be. It's a little weird that digital version, that's a little bit peachish.
Oh, yeah. All right. And then there's the battle between the two of them.
Yeah.
But
I love this. I love the John Workman's shout panels too.
Oh yeah. That extra little bit of almost like an explosion.
Yeah.
If you will.
And take a look at that panel. That his lettering is not, or his dialogue. The words are centered if the panel had been fully drawn.
What do you mean?
Well, if you take a look at the panel in the second, or the word balloon in the second panel, right?
Yeah.
So if you extend that circle out all the way, then the dialogue, the words would have been centered.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But they're not.
No. The letters are a butt to the panel border.
Yeah. So the panel, so the word balloon actually kind of subconsciously extends out. Yep. Like he's thinking about it. Like the art, the craftsmanship on all the levels are ridiculous.
But Workman's got all the great stuff. The other two panels up on top, most letters would be yelled at or afraid to do the stuff where he's got all that space on the top and the bottom of those letters.
Yeah.
Within the giant circle shapes he's doing, where other people would have done an ellipse or something that would have supposedly, or in an unusual fashion, fit the shape of those letters.
But also, I think that fits the fact that Beta Ray Bill is alien. It's not quite the same. He wasn't doing that for other panel balloons or word balloons. No.
Yeah, you're right. Well, some of them he's giving a little bit more, but
Yeah, but look at there's Thor. I mean, it's not quite the same.
no.
And Hammer in
No.
the foreground.
Oh yeah, there it is sitting there. But here it is. It's sitting there between them.
Is that the gun on the mantle?
And the hammer part's pointing towards Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah. Well, the handle's pointed. Yeah, the hammer itself is pointed to him.
No,
but,
it's aimed at him. It's not pointing at Thor. It's pointing at Bill.
yeah. As a weapon, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I didn't notice before. Is like maybe it's already choosing him. Is it? Oh. Yeah. More badassery.
Just ripping up this spaceship.
Just doing some damage. And so one of the other things that's
reminds me of that Iron Man versus Submariner battle where two humanoid people are just tearing the hell out of each other.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Unlike some sort of steel barge or ship or something in the
There's that ship. All right. So. Oh my God.
Hello.
So my Alexa just answered a question.
That you didn't ask.
I didn't ask. I think Scott asked it. She heard him.
Your cyborg parts are coming alive.
AI. All right. So one of the things in this area, Steve, Scott and I are talking about the fact that Thor jumps in front of the ship. He chases the ship down. He messes the ship up. He causes it to go into crisis mode. If he hadn't done that, it never would have stopped at Earth.
Yeah.
It's Thor's fault.
It's Thor's fault. It decides to crash land on Earth because he messes it up. They do damage to the ship.
I blame Fury.
Yeah. If Fury had not gotten involved, this ship just would have flown by and had nothing to do with the Earth or Thor or Asgard or anything.
Irony.
Some might say.
But Nick knew we needed Bill in our lives.
He did. He must have known. Oh, look at that.
It's so good.
Oh.
It's so good.
And shift to the coldness of space. Right? Look at the path that the ship is taking. Not a straight line. Crazy zigzaggy arc.
Yep.
And again, right, like that we've just noticed all through this issue of like Walt tracking us with motion lines or energy lines to keep directing our eye.
Mm-hmm.
Masterful.
God, I love the color. I love his use of black, and just how I always break it up. I can never just have a gigantic solid black space.
Yeah. Again, so many such bold choices.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, it's the confidence to go. I know, it's like Eduardo Risso is the master of that, right? Like
he really is.
He uses black all the time. Jeff and I are so lucky that we got to meet and hang out with him, and he's also like the nicest guy in the world.
He's super cool.
And he uses black all the time to hide stuff that he knows how to draw. He's not doing it to hide what he can't draw.
Yeah. He's hiding what you don't need to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Powerful punch. Right.
One packs a pistol, Jeff.
And here we go.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's in Thor. Part of the story of Thor was, and Donald Blake was always his punishment for his arrogance and his thoughtlessness and his overzealotry of just jumping into the fray, and
His ego. Yeah.
his ego. And by doing that, but that's exactly what he did to this ship. And so he's paying the price again for that.
He came in busting. Should have knocked and talked to somebody.
Right. He should have knocked and talked. They should have done something. So this is once again, like, this is the chickens coming home to roost.
It should have been a knock and talk.
It's a knock and talk. A simple hello. Right. So they get into Earth's atmosphere and into the orbit or whatever, and then there he goes back to Blake. Can you imagine?
Oh,
getting hit by Bill as Blake?
Yeah, no, he'd be dead.
Dead. 100% be dead. Oh,
And
but
then there was the whole bit explained in the dialogue balloons that, oh my God, when you're out in space, he's fine when he's like this. But when he gets within the range of Earth, then he has to have that 60-second timer on his hammer and his stick. That he's got to have it in hand. It's like the old weaknesses they would give the heroes.
Jones and I used to play a game. Was it Villains and Vigilantes? Was that it, Jones?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Steve was, and you had a certain amount of points to create a character. And Steve was a fantastic accountant / lawyer. He would create these really powerful characters, but he would also give them all these deficits. And it wasn't my favorite one was like a character had flight, and that cost a lot of points. But Jones also gave him the deficit that it was always on.
Yeah.
Or right. Yeah, this is Champions. That was this this structure.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh right, Champions. I haven't heard that forever.
Yeah, we nerded out a little bit there.
Woo.
Yeah. Whereas before we had been being really cool, but then we just nerded out there a little bit.
Yeah,
just a little.
Oh, Mark.
I love that. Beta Ray Bill's spaceship's name is Scuttlebutt.
Oh yeah. Right, because what Scuttlebutt is that it's rumors, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like supposed to be worthless trash or whatever, which I think originally a scuttlebutt would have been a scuttled ship, a ship that was sunk.
Scuttle a ship.
Yeah,
that's one thing, but scuttlebutt is rumors on a ship that lead to trouble.
Oh, it's rumors on a ship. There you go.
Yeah.
Da-da-da.
All right. Yeah, look at that crazy design. It's just the. Would you ever design a character that looked just kind of weird and scary?
Right. Part horse, part beak, part.
The urge would always try and make something that was attractive, that you might be able to, I don't know, sell as a toy or a TV character or a movie.
Yeah.
But that would not have made him a great hero / anti-villain.
Well, even as the if the writer had told you, said, here's the plan, and we need a monster looking character, but he's actually got the soul of a hero, whatever. So he's going to look scary and deadly and almost evilish or something like that. But he's going to have this inner great worthliness so that he's going to be able to pick up the hammer and stuff. I still wouldn't have thought of a horse or any of those things that he did with that stuff.
No, it would never have occurred to me.
And yet, it's perfectly mythological, sci-fi, all that great stuff mixing together.
Yeah. There's the next panel. Just a ship crashing on Earth. So what I love about this is like we don't see the Earth ever. Yeah. We don't see it coming through the atmosphere. We don't see any of that. It would not have been necessary. That's all happening off screen while they're fighting. All we need is that when it crash lands.
Yeah. Yep. And then we get told in the captions, that's where they have to work in Simpatico. They have to work together on stuff for us to get all this information. Well played, that there's important stuff in the visuals and there's important stuff in the words that you cannot get the whole story unless you do both.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I love too, is like in this moment, like we just hear like put the status field around me.
Yeah.
They crash. And then that's why Blake's still alive.
Yeah, why they survived this crazy thing. Yeah, I mean it's keeping what's the Superman movie term?
Suspension of disbelief?
No, the one where it says you're basically trying to make it believable, real enough.
Oh,
I forget the word now. It was the director's word. He had it over his door, and it was his watchword for everybody working on the movie.
Oh, I don't remember. Perhaps someone will tell us. All right, so here's the thing in that second panel there. Look at I don't think forever when I first read it, I don't think I noticed the tank in the foreground.
No. Yeah.
I think it took me many viewings to notice that. And it's so cool because those tank treads are not your normal tank tire treads.
Nope. Those are Simonson treads, baby.
Those are all over Simonson treads.
Bought at the Shield warehouse.
Yeah. Oh.
Next to the Acme warehouse.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, Nick is so cool.
Nick Fury, you handsome devil.
Right, and then there's the hammer.
Just doing his job.
There's the stick.
The stick.
Right.
And what's also really cool about this is he's casually hitting aside a little bit of frustration, this and that, going, oh, this worthless piece of, that's the same thing Don Blake did.
Yeah.
In the cave, when he first found it, that's the same sequence of events. Don picked up the stick thinking, this is all I have. I can't escape this cave. It was just a stupid stick. Whack.
That transformation panel, that's really hard to do. Like, what are you going to use to suggest? You know what I mean? Like, I think picking and choosing what you put in that one is so hard.
But I think that's a great comment, Scott, about how this is how casual and unsuspecting they were. And that's just a callback to, I mean, here's the thing about Walt, not only is he imagining great new stuff, he really honors the old stuff in this issue.
Yeah, he knows this in his bones fully. This actually, when I described it that way, it reminds me of Jonesy. It reminds me of the Spider-Verse movie. When the uncle is revealed as the Ravager. Prowler. And then he dies on that rooftop. Spoilers, everybody. But that whole sequence, it wasn't until that happened and I was in the shock of the uncle, the beloved uncle, being shot and everything. I'm like, oh my God, this is his, the Peter Parker, this is the Spider-Man moment.
This is his Uncle Ben.
Losing his Uncle Ben. Oh my.
Yeah. All right, we lost Scott. All right, let's move on to the next one. Scott will come back on in a second.
Scott got too excited and we lost him.
So let's just point. So when Scott comes back on, I will reveal what Scott's been drawing. But look at that. So we go from here, and this is the transformation.
Incredible.
What I love about this shot, Steve, is like that's Beta Ray Bill as Thor, right? But like that is not a full body shot.
No,
that is true.
Right? I would like, and I think most artists today would show you a gigantic shot of the full body Bill.
Yes, they would have.
Yep.
Right. But why? We don't need to see it. We're right here in the shot. And here's
this is the restraint,
Yeah. And then Scott here. So that's Bill, Scott, and you. The whole thing you've been working on, Scott, is your Beta Ray Bill.
Yep.
Ooh la la.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, give us a good shot of it. Yeah. So why did you draw it on a DC cover?
Because that's what I had handy.
Fair enough.
And I thought it was funny. I don't know if you'd seen the other posts that I had done, but I've been posting a few covers and commissions lately. Where did I put? Here they are. And amongst the other ones I was working on this week, this one occurred to me.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was too fun of an idea not to do.
Huh? Gladiator?
Yeah.
Gladiator he is Superman.
He's a Marvel Superman.
I love that one. And that one's
they were just fun ideas.
That's available?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
These batches are available. The Phoenix one, I don't know if I'd share those with you guys yet, but this one turned out was a lot of fun.
Oh,
and that was one I was telling you, Jeff, that I was going to work on.
Oh, the Dormammu?
Whee!
Yeah, look at that. Cool background stuff.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh, Steve's stuff is nuts. Look at that. Pure imagination.
And that's actually a mix of like two of the costumes for Dormammu that Ditko had created. I looked at, there's a purplish one and there was a green one, actually, I think when he very first appeared. And
wow.
These arm pieces and stuff come from the green one and the loose clothing.
Nice. And you're doing those with Copic markers, right? Is that the...
Yeah, that's Copic.
Copic, is that how you pronounce it?
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see all the different little tones and different gradients of stuff.
Yeah, I've watched you do so many of these when we're at shows, and it always seems like magic to me because I still work with a ballpoint pen.
Right.
And I can't get my head around the gray tone stuff, but it always gives so much depth to a drawing.
You just gotta keep playing with it. You'll get it.
All right.
Jeff's like, look, I mastered one of the hardest tools that no No person would ever try to
person.
use a ballpoint pen. It costs 99 cents.
Right.
Why should I then?
Master the tools of poverty is what I mastered.
Yeah. Why should I master these other things?
Yeah. The Coptics are expensive. Scott spends a lot of money refilling those things. A ballpoint pen, I just steal them from the bank. That's my secret. All right, so let's
Jeff is Butcher Cassidy or Sundance Kid. Which one?
Yeah,
Are you?
one of the two. So look, so there's Scott's Beta Ray Bill, and then bang, Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah.
And here's the thing I love that we were talking about colors earlier. So Beta Ray Bill, he mixes what's his Thor. He mixes the blues and the reds, but it's not that primary yellow. It's that orangish color.
Yeah, still in his arms because Thor has flesh arms. He doesn't have coverings on his arms.
Yeah.
But yes, he's still this bad guy we think of or whatever that's monstrous, and yet he's getting the good guy colors because deep down, he's a good guy.
Yeah, and look at that shot. So that is inside one of those crazy tank things.
Yeah.
It would never occur to me to do like a top-down shot. It's so cool.
It's such a good shot. Well, Jeff, I feel like you might draw that shot, but you would have pulled it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When I was at CrossGen, and this was one of the best things that happened at CrossGen, apart from making many good friends there, I did an issue of Ruse.
Love that issue.
It came out pretty good, and I really I studied. I had a good time doing it, and I learned a lot doing it. And Butch Geis is an amazing artist, and watching him draw and studying his drawing was incredibly educational. And then after I finished my issue, Bart Sears took me into his office, and we had like a deconstruction, a post-action kind of review. And he went through it panel by panel and showed me where I could have done it differently. And it was almost always being more clear about my focus in a panel. Like, right. And in that 20-minute conversation, I learned more about drawing comics and telling stories from Bart Sears than I did in all my years of studying everything I studied. And it was always about like, well, you wasted time drawing this, like that guy in the background is not important. You should have focused on this.
Bart is not about wasting time or drawing anything extra.
Well, I mean, it's because also the reader does it. Like,
no, I know.
Right?
I'm busting
like,
up. Bart's a great teacher.
Need to see.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I had. Well, one of the tough things about drawing comics is back in the day, you had to learn so much on your own. You didn't. I mean, Scott, you got to have a teacher and many teachers, but like having someone give you their experience and the benefit of their knowledge was hard to come by back in the day.
Oh yeah, very much so. That's absolutely why I went to the Cupid School.
Yeah.
It was the only way for me to get enough of the information that I needed to really be able to break in and give me enough of the chops so that I could spend the rest of my career, keep working on the rest of it.
I definitely think that I got huge benefits from that conversation, and it affected the way I drew everything afterwards.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had 1 year with Bart at the Kubert School, and I believe his class was storytelling. He was really good at explaining all of that stuff, and part of that, yes, is the picking and choosing of shots, which ones to glorify, which ones are the most important shots on the page.
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. The economy of picking and choosing the correct lineup, all that kind of thing. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah. So there's that, and then we cut to this.
Is Coyote Duran Colleen Duran? How do they know that you're named Hondo?
I don't know. Well, I mean, everyone calls me Hondo.
I mean, you are a Luddite. That's true. But
I am a bit.
But you're less of. I mean, I was way more of a Luddite. You becoming less of a Luddite is what allowed me to finally learn a thing or two about the electronics.
Yeah. No, I still do go in the bank. I get my change there. I steal my pens there. I deposit checks and get money orders, all that stuff.
Well, we're on the last 4 pages. I've got 17% left on my battery.
All right. Let's get this done, Jeff.
Okay. All right. Let's keep moving. Let's quit sidetracking me. All right. There he is.
Amazing shot. Amazing shot.
Totally cool. In a Thor pose. That's a Thor traditional pose.
Yeah. And it's almost the exact same pose if we go back to, if I can find it, where Thor catches the hammer before.
Yeah.
Bang.
Yep.
Same pose.
Yep.
So it's almost like a callback.
Well, and again, it's telling us who Bill Rayleigh is.
Yeah. All right, hang on. There we go. I'm finding the right one. Nope. There we go.
And then the next one's awesome. Go to the next one.
Amazing.
That's so
meeting.
cool. He's so monstrous. He's so ugly.
He's scary.
Love this Mjolnir strap as well.
Yeah. He's just definitely scary. And they're in the tank being like, okay, we have a problem. This is definitely
another amazing. We got some Dum Dum in there too.
You got to have them.
Oh yeah,
Dum
I
Dum.
forgot. He's just hanging out. I forgot he was just around Shield.
Meow.
Oh god, look at those sound effects. Yeah, and like that's great tank, and the lighting on that last panel is impressive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, pulling out the stops there.
Oh, and then look at that shot of Odin.
Oh, so mythological.
Look how big his words are.
Exactly. I love that stuff.
I mean, you just in your mind when you're reading it, you just hear them as booming.
The voice of God, literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really is. You're right, Jeff. This is such a great tribute to what the Thor book was and is and everything at that time. But it was like it gave you 50% or more of everything that you knew and expected in a Thor book, and all the tropes and all this goodness that we had grown to love and had been built over all these years. But then at the same time, he just took the other 50% of them and was just dashing them left and right with Beta Ray Bill or, not showing your hero right away and building up slowly in the shadows. You build up Thor in the shadows.
Well, and look at that picture of Thor. You can see why Odin, at a quick glance, would not know that wasn't his son.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, red cape, hammer, wings. Okay, that's
you've got the hammer. That's it.
Yeah, you got the hammer. No one's ever picked. Had anyone ever picked the hammer before? Scott, I think you're right. I don't think anyone had.
No, I don't think so. Not at that time. People had tried, and maybe somebody came close at some point. Some villain, like might have Mangog or whatever, might have gotten in there, but no way.
And then
poof, Bill's gone.
He's gone.
And you're still reeling from this, going like, oh my God, that happened. Oh my God, that happened. Oh, this is where we are. And again, it's just building it up for our last page spectacular. This issue is so dramatic.
Yeah. There's that shield eagle in reverse now.
Yeah.
But it's right there.
Coming out of the tank.
Yeah, look at that guy pointing right. Like the once again, the lines go straight to what's important.
Yeah. Little tiny Donald Blake.
Oh, holding on for dear life.
Right.
Poor little Don Blake.
So small in just that morass of lines of intersecting shapes. And then
in this giant cosmic trauma, this poor little man.
Oh God, but then this panel, I don't know about you guys, but when I saw this panel,
Yep.
There's nothing like that. That's just insane.
So powerful.
I think that might be one of the best panels ever drawn in comics.
Well, I think it was just so symbolic of it. It was so Shakespearean.
Yeah. Right. And it's such a fucking cliffhanger. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Everything I thought I knew is wrong.
Yep.
And I need to know what happens next.
Yep.
And I'm having a lot of feelings.
Thank you, Mark Grunwald.
Oh God, Mark Grunwald was the coolest. He was such a great guy. He really knew. He knew good stories.
Well, you roll your dice, you take your chances. This is the other thing we were talking about, is that this Thor time was also another one of those brilliant situations that used to be a real sweet spot for some of these creators to come out in comic books. Thor was nothing at this point for at least,
Right.
I don't know, 3 to 5 years or so. At that point, it had
Right.
really fallen down and become a not great Marvel book.
Some of the best comics that we've come to love were in exactly that same spot, right? Like Frank Miller coming on to Daredevil, or X-Men was like a bi-monthly comic that no one was paying attention to.
I know Daredevil was close to being canceled. I'll bet you Thor was as well. If like the first 6 or 8 issues of the Simonson thing hadn't worked out, I'll bet you it was on the chopping block.
Yeah.
I've heard that the Flash was on the chopping block before Jeff and I got on it.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so Scott, one more look at your Beta Ray.
Amazing.
He's so much fun.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing. And before we go, I just wanted to throw up a quick.
Don't throw up, Jeff.
I'm not going to throw up, but here is it this one? Yeah. So there's Dan's version of the cover that he.
Amazing.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah, right. Like he added a bunch of the gray tones, and he did his Super Bowl Dan inking on it, and like really just I think made that.
Dan will never watch our show to know that we've just paid homage to him, but maybe someone else will mention it.
Well, I mean, it's really he did a great Beta Ray Bill.
It's beautiful. Dan is definitely channeling Simonson in his work right now amongst many other awesome artists. And
I think so. I definitely think there's a power to his line that is a Simonson gift. All right, and then there's
absolutely Dan should ink more Simonson.
Yeah, I would love to see that. All right, gang. So that was fun.
We did it.
We did it. We got through once again. We get through. It takes us a while to get through an issue, and I think the problem is that there's so much going on in the comics we keep picking.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, we're picking good comics.
Yeah.
We're
cover so much ground.
We have good taste, if I can toot our horn a little bit.
We do.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Scott, was that a final?
It was. Everybody have some.
Fantastic.
Gentlemen, to evil.
To evil. That was a great a great comic. It was fun to hang out with you guys. It was good going over a book that I think is just deep in my comic book DNA. Like it just everything I think about making a good comic, it comes back to that issue. There's just something about it that I would love to. When I think of like what I would like to achieve as an artist, that's the bell mark right there.
Oh yeah, very much so. And it got me so enthused to be reading all that stuff. I dragged out all those issues now, so now I'm gonna make it through probably the whole Simonson run again, which I haven't read in at least a couple of years.
Yeah. I definitely will do that, and I'm very grateful that we're doing that because I was like, oh my god, it's like the hits just it's like a Beatles album, like where it's like this song's good too, this song's good too.
Yep. The hits keep coming. All right, so I'm going to sign us out. I think everyone should check out all of our information in the description box.
Please do.
Like and subscribe to the show so that you never miss an episode. We'll be announcing the next one pretty soon. We may or may not have a guest.
And let's get some guys writing in comments below the video and give us suggestions for other books or different things that they'd like to see us do in the future.
Exactly. Like we have our favorites, but let's maybe do one of the fan favorites.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll find something that'll be a great surprise for us.
Is there a comic or a cartoon you feel like we could be giving a little bit more attention to?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Don't hold back. Everyone. Don't stop.
Good night, and I'm going to put this screen up. There you go, and I'm going to play our music so we can.
That's us, people.
There you go. All right. Happy New Year, and we will talk to you guys all soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, people.